But this is the last thing, and this is why you have to connect with persons who are always ahead of you, who can pour back into you. Growing up here in PG County Public Schools, we had a little bit of Black history during Black History Month. But one of the biggest questions I get from so many young persons is they want to do something, but they don't know how to do it, and they don't necessarily want to go and protest. But I remember sitting back in the office at the church between services one Sunday, and Dr. Boyd shared with me is, you have to learn to stay in your lane, but you have to learn to do what only you can do, whatever the gifting is. And she shared with me a sister that she knew who was a math professor at the University of Alabama State by the name of Joanne Robinson. And I said, who in the world is Joanne Robinson? If she remembers, she said, you all think that Dr. King started the bus boycott movement with Rosa Parks, but it was a sister, a Black woman, a professor at Alabama State by the name of Joanne Robinson, who initially initiated everything and brought everything together. And hearing that, I was like, wow, that's amazing. And so if you can just share the story, but encourage a young person who wants to do something, but does not necessarily want to go outside, but does not know what they can do.
Right. And I'm so glad you brought that up in the context of everybody can't be on the stage. Right. And everybody doesn't need to be on the stage, but everybody can do something to make a difference. Right. And Joanne Robinson had already been working for rights to ride the bus. Of course, again, segregated Alabama, Montgomery. The whites sat in the front, the blacks sat in the back, and if the whites needed more room, Black people had to get up. And that's what instigated all of that. But she had been working with that because Rosa Parks was not the first one to get arrested. She was the most famous one to get arrested, but there were others who had been in that space before. But because she was prepared, and when Rosa Parks, who AME, stewardess, well respected in the community, and now what have you done? You have arrested a stewardess in St. Paul AME Church. Oh no, we're not having this. And so she seized that opportunity because she was also secretary of the NAACP. And they said, this is what we're going to do. We're going to work with this new minister in town. His name is Reverend Martin King. We're going to work with him because, people don't know him yet, but he's willing to work with us. And we're going to tell people not to ride the bus initially it started for a week, and it became a year. Right. And they said, they're not going to do that. I said, no, challenge the people. Yeah. If we're doing it for a right and just cause, they will. Right. So Joanne Robinson at Alabama State, you don't know anything about this. They had what's called a mimeograph machine. They didn't have Xerox back then. They have Xerox. You couldn't press the button and make 1,000 copies. It was a machine, and for every copy, you had to turn this handle. And it was paper, there was this thing, and it would create a new, so for all those thousands of copies, somebody had to turn the machine by hand to make copies. She got the students at Alabama State to distribute them all across the community. Everybody didn't have cars. So we had to understand that. They had to hitch a ride in a cab or walk and get the message out to the community, to the Black community all across Montgomery. Do not ride the bus. We will have cabs, because of course Black people were driving the cabs then, and a few people had cars, like the preachers, and some people had cars, but everybody didn't have cars. But they organized. And she was in the background, pulling the strings, making it happen. Dr. King was making the speeches, which somebody had to do that. Right. But Joanne Robinson was in the background saying, a Black woman, here, take this flyer, make sure it gets out to the west side, to the east side, and people will know not to ride the bus. And then she was able to say to them, a week is not enough. We got to keep it going. Dr. King got the message out. A week is not enough. We're going to do it for a whole year. And for 1 year, when they say Black people can't do anything, for 1 year, people walked to work, they walked to the grocery store, they walked everywhere they had to go to make a point that our lives matter. Yeah. Even though that's why they didn't have a hashtag back then, but that was their message for 1 solid year. Wow. Our lives matter. And we will not ride these buses until you treat us fairly and do right by us.
Now let me interject. When she said R, she didn't say all, A-L-L-R, O-U-R. And what we're saying today is Black Lives Matter. It's the same thing as they were saying then, our lives matter.
Right. Our lives matter. Yeah. And we're not going to let you continue to disrespect us, mistreat us and walk over us like we're dogs and not allow us to stand in the fullness of who we are as God's people. And so they lost. I mean, the bus company went out of business, lots of folks went out of business, but they made their point. Our lives as black people, our lives matter. We matter. And they had to stand up and do what was right. And then, of course, after all of that, federal laws were passed that we could ride the bus. We, meaning black people, could ride the bus and sit anywhere we wanted to. It came all the way from Alabama and became a federal law, all because of Joanne Robinson.
Wow, you hear that? The interesting thing that she said, young folks, was that they were willing to sacrifice and work together, and the bus company went out of business.
Yes.
Imagine today with the tools that you have on the power of social media, if we said we refuse to support any business that supports this current president, how we can make a difference. They didn't do it for a week or a month. It went on for an entire year, and rules, laws, legislation were changed because they were willing to fight, endure, and to stand the test of time. Young folks, you heard it from Dr. Gwendolyn Boyd, none other that if you are willing to stand for something, then we won't fall for anything. We can make a change. We just got to learn to come together. Any closing words? I'm gonna let you close it out, and I'm gonna go ahead and see y'all next Friday night out here at Ebenezer Way on the Stoop, and I'm gonna let Shinsi came all the way from Montgomery, let her close on out.
We love you. We thank you, Reverend Akil, for standing on the stoop for your generation now. Because someone has to be there to say the right thing to the right people. You know how to interact with social media. You know how to, you got thousands of millions on following you and networking with you. So I just want to applaud you for what you are doing in this generation. You're using the tools of this generation like Joanne Robinson used the tools of her generation. And that's because God has given you a sound mind and a spirit of confidence and determination. And I say for all of you who are following him and to all the young people, God loves you. God will bless you if you will follow him as his disciple. And God will use you if you say, God, I don't know what to do, but if you speak to my heart, I'm willing to listen and I'm willing to be your obedient service. If you open up and surrender to God, God will use you and take you to great places, introduce you to great people like he did for me with Michelle and Barack Obama and so many other people that God has allowed. God has a great plan for your life. Stay with God. Trust God. Believe God. Keep your hand in God's hand and know that everything will be all right because God is sovereign and in control. God bless you.
God bless you. Next week, since she already went to it, she said if you stay the course, God will take you and introduce you to great people. Proverbs 18 says this, your gifts will make room for you and will expose you to great people and take you before great men. Y'all stay tuned. Next Friday, we got another special guest who's going to show us about how they